Hi, Mukul. Welcome on SaaS Talk.
Hi, Pratik. How are you? Excited to
I'm
be here.
great.
Thanks.
Yes. So, Mukul, let's start with the thing which you have done in your career. I mean, I would like to know that what you have done in sales and what kind of, your career had in last couple of years.
Oh yeah, good question. I was recently reflecting on it. So it's a good combination. I started off working with one of the startups. I started way back in 2014. So overall, 9+ years of work experience. So as I mentioned, so sales has been my domain. IT and ITES has been my domain, so to say. I started off working with one of the startups. I was the fourth or the fifth member in the team, and you know how it is. You are completely on your own. The product was not in place, and we still had to go and meet clients and make sure that we are hitting revenue targets and other things. So that's how I started. Then moved on to work with some of the brands later on, like Max Group, Times of India, Simply Learn. Very short. I am in a cybersecurity space. So it has been a mix of services, service selling, product selling, and now it's cybersecurity. So the sales is at the core, but yeah, this has been the industries and the companies that I've been working or I've worked with rather.
Nice, Mukul. So, what was the common thing? We most of the time we see that there are people in sales who are focusing on one, domain. Just like me, I'm totally focused on SaaS. So I have worked in SaaS only. So, what was the common part in all those, industries, all those companies?
I think the common part is ownership. I would say sense of ownership. So if you work like as an employee, I know it's very cliche and a lot of people have talked about it, but it actually works on the ground. If you truly work like you own the company, you start getting ideas, you start having work life balance. You think from a solution oriented approach. You stop depending on people. Of course you go out and have suggestion other things, but I think apart the sense of ownership, like it's I own this, that makes a huge difference.
Mukul, last night we were in a call, right? And you mentioned a very
Yeah,
unique part, like you guys were a organization where you have to research and think about that why sales people are not working and not performing,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
would you
yeah.
like to share that story? Like that story is very interesting. I would like if you can
Yeah.
share.
So I mean, we had a problem statement with us where, from one of the companies. Our responsibility was to increase the efficiency and productivity of the company. So we connect, and there's this company wherein out of 10, 7 centers were profitable and doing very well. There was no problem as such. 3 centers were not performing up to the mark. There were a lot of training programs. There were a lot of motivational intervention, so on and so forth. But nothing was changing on the ground. So this was the task with us, and it was a unique at the same time, because what came out from our research, so to say, that was surprising. We realized, so we had a list of questionnaire, and we would ask each employees. So I think there were a team size of 20 to 25 people, and you have team leaders and senior leaders who are above the hierarchy. So we would sit separately with them and try to ask the leaders, what do you think is the problem. Then
Mhm.
you talk to these employees one on one, and you have this very close ended and open ended questions. And what came out was fear, that they were fearful of the fact that if today might be the last day in the company. And I mean, there are a lot of people who were the sole breadwinner of the family, sole earner in the family. And they had so much of fear by the time they have their ID card, and the moment that they walk in, they're working with a lot of fear. And this was going against them.
Mhm.
This was going against they giving their 100%. Management and this team leaders were not aware of it. And the reason we asked that why you're not sharing that, this is what I'm feeling. They say that if we're going to share that this is the fear, we don't know them. They say, okay, resign then if you cannot handle this. So
Right.
imagine, this is the pressure that they are going through, and nobody on earth can sail through, this kind of a pressure. Yeah. So this
Right.
was the fundamental flaw, and yeah, so that was it.
It's very interesting. I have seen most of the time the manager use this kind of fear to motivate their, colleague, but that doesn't happen. So, Mukul,
Yeah.
as per you, what are the other factor which, impact salesperson to not perform or not go to their extreme levels?
To the extreme level, I would say, everything is if you look at the puzzle, so product knowledge, the sales knowledge, everything is important. It's not that you are very good with presentation and bad with negotiation, so you lose some point there. So everything is important. What makes the difference, again, the point that I started off with, if really within, if it's coming from within, that I want to make this happen. The sense of ownership that I've talked about. It's very intangible. You don't see it on a Excel sheet and everywhere because it's very intrinsic. And this is what I learned in one of the companies, that if you don't work with a sense of purpose that you own this, you will not be able to think out of the box. You will be dependent on people. Of course, it's a team game, but that makes all the difference, and this is very close to entrepreneurship also. I personally believe that sales is equal to entrepreneurship.
Mukul, you also mentioned one line. You mentioned that most of the time in India, people think, "अगर कुछ नहीं किया तो sales कर लेंगे," right? This is the
Yeah.
mindset of entire country, and this is true. Even though we are trying to push the level, but this is what happening. So how we can change this? Like how we can make sure कि नहीं sales is a good career. It's not something which is a left out और कुछ नहीं किया तो वो कर लेंगे.
Yeah, I mean, we were, first, I think we need to accept. First, I used to be very defensive about myself. That first, I need to convince myself that, no, it's not something that you should be defensive about. You should be out there and talk about it, because, you know, society and, how people will perceive, we want to be a part of the community. So it makes all the difference. But first, I think it starts from me, that I should accept it, that you know uh, this is what I want to do, and then be very open about it. I think that's when things will actually start to change. We were discussing the other day that
Right.
uh, barring other, sales is the only profession where you joined it and you're completely on your own. Of course there are training programs, but specifically when I started off, straight out of college, then I had to do a lot of I had to learn it with a lot of success and failures, which is of course, which is very important. But if you have some guidance before that, okay, this is the direction that you should focus. You are on a right track. You know, so all these things makes you know play a very important factor, I would say. I think so. To answer your question, it should start from us.